Hello there. It's November 21st, 2023. My name is Joe Weston, and we're here for our global heart practice. It's great to see you all. It's, as I say, it's always great to see familiar faces, and it's always great to see new faces. And what we do here is we've been gathering and to share the history. We did this. We started in 2018, I believe, the summer of 2018, where we committed to doing this every week, of holding space for the planet, coming together, creating community of people who share heart resonance and want to hold a vision for a world of true lasting peace. And we're here to be with each other, to support one another, to guide one another, to be in community with one another, to share our hearts with one another, and to practice together. What I'm saying, what we've been doing over the years is cultivating a deeper level of resilience and fierce compassion within ourselves to take on the roles, if we choose to, of what I call doulas, midwives. Midwives for a system that's dying away, and midwives for what is being birthed on the planet and is birthed and is emerging. And that requires a lot of skill, and that requires a lot of resilience in that, to be able to walk through the world really resonating from the perspective of nurturer and protector. And I've been talking a lot more about this lately, is that our biology has us wired, because of our fight, flight, freeze response, that in order to survive, one of the ways we can survive is to get into a stance of fighting or defending. And we seem to be well wired for that. And that part of that is to understand that while that is our survival mechanism, it doesn't need to be used in every instant. And that we can actually train ourselves and become more resilient within ourselves, that in the moment to make a choice that allows us to notice that pattern, take a breath, overcome it, and then activate another pattern which we can cultivate, which is being nurturers and protectors. And to be able to hold that for ourselves, for our loved ones, and also for strangers, and even for those we might call adversaries. And as always, we start with, I give a little talk, just giving a context of what I'm noticing is unfolding. And then we do our practice as a theme, a resonance of that. And then afterwards, there's time to reflect. But I've been trying to shake it up a little bit. This is the end of a series that we started on October 24th. That for me, with what was on my heart, the pain that was in my heart about what was unfolding in the world and in the Middle East. And as I said, having worked in the Middle East for over 10 years and continuing to work there, and having deep connections and relationships with people, with Jewish people, with Israeli people, with Palestinian people, people in Lebanon, in Jordan, in the whole region, as well as in the world and other conflict zones, I felt it was time to meet up again and to just share. So we started on October 24th. It's now November 21st series. And if you remember, I started telling a little story about Hamlet. And I thought, just to balance it out, because my sun sign is in Libra, so I got to keep it in balance. I'm going to end with another take on Hamlet, something that I want to share. But just to remind us, what I brought up was this idea that with Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, for those, just very quickly, his story was he was the Prince of Denmark. His dad was the king. He went off to school in Germany, and then got word had to go back because his dad was dead. His mom was married to his uncle, who was his father's brother. He heard from the ghost of his father, "Hey, dude, you got to help me out here. Your uncle killed me. You got to do revenge. You got to take him out." And that the whole play was his dilemma about what to do, and that I offered a perspective that I think is important for us, and this idea of what frequency are we holding in this time, this idea that Hamlet's dilemma could be interpreted that he was from medieval Denmark. He was in a time when where there was a big transition happening for human beings, particularly for European human beings, called the Great Renaissance, the Enlightenment. And that in that time, Denmark was still pretty medieval, where you were functioning from a place of, hey, you did something to my family, I'm going to kill you. It's just normal. But he studied in Germany and got exposed to a whole new way of looking at the world, of human beings' relationship with the universe and the cosmos and other creatures and each other, a more humanistic way of looking at it, where you were concerned about the consequences of your behavior. You were concerned about the needs of others, and right-sizing yourself in relationship as a human being in relationship with the cosmos. So with that awareness, he then went back to Denmark, was being asked to go back to the medieval ways of doing things, and that was his struggle. Why it's a tragedy is because he was just pulled back into his enculturation. He can only keep that frequency, that higher frequency of humanism up so high before he was pulled back into vengeance, taking sides. And that was, for me, an important way of framing what's happening now, is that there's a lot of there are horrible things happening on this planet, and there are horrible things that happened on October 7th, and that's been happening since then. And what is our role now? What is the best thing that we can do for the best possible outcome for all beings? And my fear has been that a number of people have been pulled, even though we know better, that many of us have been in spiritual practice for decades, with self-actualization, peace building, nonviolent communication. And yet we were tested in a way where we were either going to maintain that, or we were going to pull back into taking sides and vengeance. I'm not judging any of it. I'm just bringing this as an awareness for our practice, that I called October 7th and what's happening. This is our black belt test for those of us who want to see ourselves as doulas, as midwives, as being nurturers and protectors in the world, as being those who can hold a level of common sense, hold the middle and reason, to try to see the higher perspective and to see what is possible. And then mostly to take care of those who have gotten themselves caught in the back and forth, taking sides, victim, perpetrator, all of that. What I want to bring up now, so that was the kind of the talk we've had, and we've been discussing that since, but I want to bring up one of my favorite quotes that I actually have in my first book. I actually, at the very beginning of the book, I quote it. Many of you may know this. I'm going to change one word in this because it's now the 21st century and not 1599. And I'd like to just say it, and then I'm going to show it to you on a PowerPoint. What a piece of work is a human. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculty. In form and movement. How express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. In apprehension, how like a god. That is something that I have brought up in many things that I've done. That to me is a beautiful testament to human beings. And that sums up the path of actualization from human to enlightenment. What a piece of work is a human. How noble in reason. That just listen to the descriptors of our capacities. How noble in reason. We're noble in being reasonable, using rationale. Noble, how infinite in faculty, infinite in the number of things that we are physically able to do, and we're able, all the capacities we have within ourselves. In form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. That to me speaks to the practice we're doing here, compassion in action. Some might call it bodhisattva, some might call it the higher path. In action, how like an angel. And in apprehension, how like a god. That Shakespeare in 1959, 1600, is delineating and making it clear that we can become gods as human beings if we practice apprehension. And I did a little analysis. I went to one of my favorite books ever invented in the world. If you've never read it, you should. It'll take you years. It's called the Oxford English Dictionary. It is the funnest book to read because it's not just a dictionary. It also gives you the definition of the words at different times in the history of English language. So I've used that a lot, especially with my work a lot with Shakespeare and with classical theater and classical texts.
Oh my God.
That the word, how we define them today might be different from how they were defined then. So let me get the PowerPoint going here. Hey, wait a minute. Why is it not letting me?
Hey, wait a minute.
Hey, wait a minute. Oh, it's going to ask me to do something. Let's see what happens. Sorry about this. Yeah. Oh, bummer. Let me see if I can do it another way. Let's see if I do this. I'm going to put it in the chat. So here you see in the chat, that's the text. And it's a bummer that I can't do this because I'm going to put, I looked up in the Oxford English Dictionary different definitions of the word apprehension. And I think it's resonant in terms of what this message is. So if you can look in the chat, and I can just go through that real quick, is that between 1398, so Hamlet was written either between 1599 and 1601 is what they say, a long time ago. And the definition of apprehension in 1398 to 1648 was the action of learning, the laying hold of acquirement of knowledge. In 1600, the action of laying hold of with the senses, conscious perception. So that the action of using the senses, that's what apprehension is, conscious perception. That was 1600. 1605 to 62, it's a little later, but I think it's relevant. The action of feeling anything emotionally, sensitiveness or sensibility to, sympathetic perception. Remember, Shakespeare is saying that if we have this, we're like a god. And in 1570 on, the apprehensive faculty, ability to understand. 1579, the product of grasping with the mind, a conception or idea, also abiding result of such conception, a view, notion, or opinion entertained upon. And finally, in 1616, the representation to oneself of what is still future, anticipation, chiefly or things adverse. So we would think when we think of apprehension, we might think of being apprehensive, being hesitant. I understand I'm doing this all in English, and I have people from other parts of the world, and where English isn't the first language, so please forgive me, I didn't translate it. But I want to bring up that in this time, apprehension meant something to the effect of the capacity to conceptualize, to have an idea, the capacity to, in a sense, not act impulsively. And it's even, and if you think about it, it's more than reason, right? Because Shakespeare is saying that it's noble to have reason, but to have apprehension makes you equal to a god. So that for me, what he's saying is that the capacity to resist impulse, reflect, and then act. To hold a full view, to apprehend, to understand with feeling, with the senses, which is what we talk about in the fear civility work, the respectful confrontation work, 4 pillars of resilient power, trusting the wisdom of the body, of the heart, of the senses, to perceive, to collect data through perception. And from there, using our wisdom to make our decisions from there. So before we go into a practice, I just want to throw this out. Does anybody want to reflect? What resonates for you as I say this? So I'm going to read, I'm going to say the text again now with this context. What a piece of work is a human. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculties. In form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. In apprehension, how like a god. So what resonates if I say that? Or what does apprehend, what could that mean for you? Or
It feels like pointing out instructions. It feels like naming what is in the depths of us that then gets occluded by the enculturation of scarcity and greed and, so it's interesting, apprehension, and I'm not an English major and I'm not a Hamletian, but I think like if I apprehend myself, like if I slow myself down to feel the connection and the inextricable connection of all of us, then I'm bringing myself into my own divinity, into my own godliness, into my own. So.
yeah. I love that. I love the way you said, and that's the message of this is as human beings, it's a capacity that we have. We have the capacity to apprehend, to comprehend, to understand. That goes beyond reason. We have to go from gathering information to the heart where we understand, then in the core, taking it into action. We have the capacity to reflect before we act, right? Generally speaking, most other creatures on this planet don't have that. They're still functioning from the basic fight, flight, freeze response, which we also have, but we have to cultivate something, and that elevates us. Doesn't mean we're supreme, and it's not in the great chain of being where we're seeing this very egotistical thing of like creating a human beings creating a place in the universe where we're just under, we're the most important in not just the planet but the universe, because at that time for many people the universe was revolving around the earth. Talk about ego. But that we have, that's what makes us godlike, is the capacity to reflect before we act. Anyone else?
I'm just going to say I'm really grateful that you're bringing this forward, because bad student, I never knew that was the first page of the book. And I really get I get the to slow ourselves down, to pay attention to what we're doing before we act. That's the practice, right? Is to be in our own discipline of slowing it down, to create the spaciousness, to have the awareness of what's actually happening instead of reacting, creating a mess and then having to go clean it up. So anyway, I'm grateful.
And that's in essence what I was saying from the very first session, is that so many of us know this, right? The reason why it's a tragedy for Hamlet is because he was on his own. He was the only one from his where the people he was around in Denmark, who was exposed to this new way of seeing human beings in the world. And it's just too much for one person not to be pulled down into that enculturation, into those patterns. The good news for us is there are millions and millions and millions and millions of human beings on this planet who have done the good work for decades and are continuing to do that work. And even young people who haven't done the work, who are born into an awareness of nonviolence, of equity, of treating each other with decency, that every person deserves a certain level of decency and respect to belong, to be valued, and this idea that of what freedom is. There are so many of us. So the good news is we're not alone. There's a wave that has been emerging that is calling all of us to step into what is evolving on this planet. We may not see it because it's pretty miserable at the moment. It looks pretty miserable at the moment. And again, as I always say, the media profits from showing us conflict. In fact, you could say on some level, the media feeds the conflict in order to exist. But many of you here in this circle that are here now know that there are many, many, many people around the world. I'm involved with communities and people around the world. There are more of us than we may think. And the time for us now is to do our best to hold that higher frequency and to connect with as many others as possible to strengthen that field. Because as we evolve and as we move into this new way of being, if we're holding that frequency, there will be no room for revenge. That frequency won't be able to manifest. We would have transcended it. Therefore, for us, it's an obligation to try our best to hold that. And I'm not saying it's easy. And as I said, the last month and a half and this period and what we see coming up in the United States particularly, but what I hear in Europe, the level of extremes in polarity, what's happening in Argentina and other countries, right? So it's our black belt test. And I have faith in us that we are resilient enough. We care enough. There are enough of us that if we just take care of ourselves and those around us, we will evolve and we will step above this. So is there anybody else who had anything to say before we start the practice? And there'll be time afterwards to reflect. I would love to hear from some of you.
May I say something? This is Sophia.
Hi, Sophia.
Hi, everyone. When you talked about apprehension, I felt on a very personal level that when somebody is triggering me and I'm ready to lash out, this is the time to pause until I see the troubled child in another person.
Yeah.
And take care of this person, not as another troubled child, but as a mother who should hold her. And this is the only approach that is actually viable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you for that. And I'm feeling enormous gratitude for the people in your life, that they have you in their life, that they get to be nurtured and protected by you. They are lucky people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's do our practice, and maybe afterwards there might be some more things you want to reflect. And as always with this practice, there's no right way to do it or wrong way to do it. It's about finding your way. And it's a practice to cultivate resilience and fierce compassion. And I'm going to lead us through that. It's a meditation with visualization, in holding the space of in a sense, what I say, it's what we're doing here is we're stretching our muscle like a good, like athletes. We're stretching our capacity to hold more beings in our heart in a way that feeds us and doesn't burn us out and doesn't cause dissonance, but actually opens us up more and opens up our capacity to be able to do that. All right, so sitting in a way where we start with power sit, sitting in a way where your spine is straight without being rigid, creating space in your vertebrae, feeling an elongation in your spine, also elongating in the back of your neck, so you're tucking your chin a little bit. Relax your jaw, relax your shoulders, relax your belly. Part of the one definition we have in this community and the work that I do of resilience is cultivating presence, awareness, balance, and flow, resilience. Bringing your attention to a spot in your lower belly, which we call the center. You're coming in contact with your center, which is approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel and 1/3 of the way into the body, from the front of the body. So if you want to examine where that is, if you put your fingers together, place your index finger over your navel, where your pinky resides, that's approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel. And from there, bringing your attention inside of your body, about 1/3 of the way into the body, from the front. Bringing your full attention to that spot, if it feels safe for you, closing your eyes. Center of gravity, impulse, creativity. Let's say where your personal power resides, and certainly your center of awareness and perception, how you perceive reality from your center. Cultivating deeper listening. Remaining in power sit, maintaining connection with your core. From your core, become aware of your contact points, the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on in the ground. Bringing full awareness to those parts of the body from your core. Feeling the sensations there of gravity pulling you down towards the chair or whatever you're sitting on the ground. Feeling a stability under you. Allowing your neuroceptors to pick up the information. It is stable here. Letting that information flow up to your brain then activating the appropriate hormones to allow yourself to sink in and let yourself be held. Trusting that you are held. Imagining that the ground you're sitting on is a representation of Mother Earth beneath you, coming in contact with Mother Earth. Acknowledging the point on the planet that you are sitting on, occupying Mother Earth. And honoring an acknowledgement of the 4 billion years or so that this spot has existed. All the creatures and human beings that have taken advantage of this spot. All the peoples and tribes that have so lovingly stewarded this land, and appreciation for them. Feeling met by Mother Earth, and always remembering that Mother Earth does not discriminate. She holds each one of us equally. Taking some time now to come more in contact with yourself. From your center, become aware of your physical body. Just notice, listen. Learn the body's vocabulary, how it speaks to you. From your center, become aware of your emotional body. What emotions are you present to right now? Just simply listen. There may be hundreds of emotions flowing through you. Which ones seem to be most present to you? And without judgment, allow them to be there and allow them to flow, knowing in this practice, all feelings are welcome. From your center, become aware of your mental body. How are your thoughts in this moment? Not necessarily what are your thoughts, but how are they? Notice. And maintaining a connection to your core is a foundation of this practice, bringing awareness now to your heart center in the middle of your chest, where your heart power resides. Compassion, understanding, connection. And with this awareness, connection with your core and your heart, become aware of that part of you that has connection to something larger than yourself. Or whatever that means for you. How much can you connect with that part of you which has access to something larger than yourself? And in this moment, what is your connection to that which is larger than yourself? And in a sense, from above, being held as well, being held by Mother Earth and being held by that which is larger than you. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. All that resonating in your heart and your core. And with that resonance, allow the resonance to now flow out into your own personal space, right to the edges of your own personal boundaries, filling your personal space with this awareness. Behind you, to the sides of you, in front of you, above you, below you. And you may want to reference, well, not yet. And with this deeper awareness of yourself in this present moment, take a full breath in through your nose, and out through your mouth. Building on this awareness of self in this moment, this present moment, from your center and from your heart, become aware of your surroundings. So now allowing your heart and your core to resonate outside of your personal boundaries. Feeling your awareness, filling the space with your awareness. Noticing sounds, smells, temperature. And if it's part of your traditions, you might even want to reference the 4 directions. Where is north? Where is east? Where is south? Where is west? And with this awareness of self and surroundings and placing yourself in your surroundings, take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Expanding out your awareness from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those in this meditation circle. Those who are here holding space through the World Wide Web for this practice, those who in this community who are not with us necessarily online, but are holding space with us in various parts of the world. Actively from your center and from your heart, reaching out and connecting. Considering that just with that practice, with your awareness and presence from your heart and your core, that you're actually impacting those in this meditation circle. And as they connect with you, they are impacting you. And with this awareness of self, surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, take a full breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. expanding your heart capacity to see how many more beings you can hold in your heart with a connection with yourself, your surroundings, and those in this meditation circle. From your center and from your heart, become aware of all human beings, beginning with those human beings you would label loved ones. Who arises in your heart? What faces do you see? Human beings that pop up in your heart that you would put in the category of loved ones. Surprise yourself. And how many can you hold at this moment, either individuals or groups of people? Noticing the impact that has on you, on your heart. And imagine this idea of apprehension, that before you make any move or any impulse, there's a moment of feeling your feet on the ground, focusing in your center and your heart, taking some deep breaths to bring you back to yourself and connection. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings you would label strangers. Who arises in your heart? What faces do you see? Could be a neighbor. Could be someone on the other side of the planet, someone you saw on the news or in the newspaper, social media. In this part of the practice, how many strangers can you hold in your heart authentically without overwhelming yourself? Since there's probably close to 8 billion of them in your category of stranger. Letting energy flow and emotions flow. And again, with strangers, that moment of apprehension, feeling your feet on the ground, focusing in your center and your heart, taking deep breaths before any actions are taken. With loved ones, overcoming the impulse of attachment. With strangers, overcoming the impulse of indifference. In order to get to authentic connection, letting go of attachment, letting go of indifference. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings you would label adversary. Who arises in your heart? What faces do you see? Groups of people, individuals. Anyone that you might consider you're feeling a certain level of aversion towards in this moment. Surprise yourself. And as you stand face to face with them from your center and from your heart and connecting with them, noticing, practicing apprehension to overcome that level of aversion. Feeling your feet on the ground, focusing your core and your heart, taking deep breaths. To activate a certain level of connection, presence. I invite you now to just consider you're holding all human beings in your heart, regardless of how you label them as loved one, stranger, or adversary. You've done your practice of apprehension, of overcoming your attachment or indifference or aversion to certain human beings, to get into a deeper level of heart resonance and connection. And I would like you to now to just imagine every human being connecting from their hearts, and as a song being sung throughout the planet and the solar system, to just listen and just imagine every heart singing, what a piece of work is a human. How noble in reason. How infinite in faculties. Every human being singing in form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. In apprehension, how like a god. And imagine that song being received by all human beings, by all creatures on this planet, and by the planet itself. And with an awareness of this sense of unified song, let's take a deep breath in. Allowing all human beings to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to those in this meditation circle with gratitude and honor. And allow those in this meditation circle to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surroundings. Allowing your surroundings to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself. And just considering the action we have just taken with this practice, just reflecting back to yourself, what an angel. And as a way to close this practice, let's take one final breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And before, as you open your eyes, imagine what the state of being you're in. Imagine being able to walk through the world with that, without that dissipating, to hold this frequency, this level of presence and connection and awareness and balance and flow, the impact that you could possibly have. And as you open your eyes, look around the room, shake your body, stretch your body. Okay, so we started with motivation. We did our practice, and now there's time for a reflection. Does anybody want to share a little bit based on what came up in the meditation and what I shared, or anything else that's coming up for you that you want to share?
Yeah, I'd like to share something.
Yeah.
It seems very small, but in Holland there are elections tomorrow. We're only with 17 million people, so that's not that much. But it looks like it's going in a way I don't like it. I don't want it. And what isn't good for the planet, for all the problems there are. I could feel in the meditation that I don't think the others are wrong, that are sorry, that the people don't have my opinion are wrong. I think I'm right, but in the meditation I could feel, no, we all have reasons why you want to have it this way, that way, or another way. But I hope with the dedication you do, you give all the people who can choose tomorrow wisdom, a whole lot of wisdom.
Or that they get up their butts and they actually go out and vote.
Yes, that's the first thing. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
To say in a very sacred way. Thank you. Yeah, and that's the essence of fierce civility, right? We're not going to see change by just telling people they're wrong. If that would have worked, it would have already worked already. That is really requires that for us to do this practice and to say, okay, I have to be curious about where you're coming from, and then maybe there we can influence each other.
Yeah.
But if again, if telling people they're wrong was going to work, it would have already worked.
Yes. And they tell me I'm wrong.
Right.
And I don't believe them.
Right.
So.
Yumika, thank you.
And now I'm sorry, but I have to leave.
Okay.
I wanted to say this, and Thank you for all this. Thank you all for coming, for showing up. And for the next time we see each other.
I'm thinking keep December 12th in your head. December 12th.
Yes, I keep it in my head.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mika.
Bye-bye.
Oh, thank you, El. Anyone else? Silas, is that smoke coming out of your head from all the thinking you're doing, or?
Maybe. Today is my daughter's 10th birthday.
Oh, congratulations.
And I cannot stop imagining children her age underneath buildings and rubble. And you introduced the idea of attachment to our loved ones today, and she actually, she's in Montana with mommy and grandma, and I'm here without them, and I don't even. I just needed to be in this space, and I needed to hear that, and I needed to feel this, I suppose. So thank you.
Well, you got to share her name. I know her name, but the rest don't.
Wren, my little wren bird. I have a nest on my altar that is like made out of horsehair and twigs and stuff from the farm, and my little wren bird. Although this is like, there's so much attachment, but that's okay. Yeah.
Thank you, Silas. Anyone else? Michael, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're here for the first, I think, for the first time, or is anything you want to reflect on, or any? You can also say no, thank you. Luke, Golden Luca says, this was an incredibly helpful session. Really appreciate it. Lisa's there. Yes. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. I really liked your interpretation of the text of Hamlet. I didn't know all that. I mean, I did actually take some acting classes for a little bit at the Shakespeare Theater in DC, but I only took one class that was actually Shakespeare. There's a lot of other acting classes that I took, but that was really very interesting, and I really liked learning that.
Thank you.
And I don't know, I don't think this is related, but when you were talking about responding, the way we respond and everything, and I thought of this story about this polar bear that, well, there were these the dog sleds, in Alaska. There was this polar, they had stopped for the night or whatever, this sled, and in the morning this polar bear had been traveling from far away and was coming up to these dogs, and normally it's predator and prey relationship, but this one dog and the polar bear started playing, and the polar bear, they said, probably hadn't eaten in a long time, was hungry, but still the response was they were playing, and they played for a while, and then the polar bear went away. And every once in a while you hear of it's an anomaly, but I just think it's fascinating that happens sometimes. Like I heard another story about this snake in an aquarium, and they were feeding hamsters, and this one hamster they put in, the snake didn't eat, and the hamster lives in the aquarium with the snake, like they're friends or whatever. Yeah. I don't know, that's kind of different though, but I just thought of that for some reason. I don't know. Any sense out of that?
Well, I think it's important to say, we can be cynical and say, oh, that just was coincidence or an anomaly, and that may be true, but it still happened.
Mm-hmm.
There's hope in that.
Yeah.
And sometimes that just needs, and that's the idea. If more of us can be the anomaly in that moment, and you just gather a whole bunch of anomalies, then is it still a coincidence? you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, remember, it's all habituation. A lot of this practice comes from my Buddhist practice, but other practices, just this idea of it's all habituation. And we're habituated to do revenge in a sense. It's and the reason why it comes so quickly is because it's in our DNA. It's like it's in our nervous system. But new habits can be learned. It just takes time.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday about this because I was saying that, you know, like I might get these negative thoughts I don't want, and it just seems like sometimes it's just like constant struggle to just keep these positive thoughts. I mean, it's not constant, but and so he suggested when you get these thoughts, you know, what do you want to replace it with? You don't want that one. What would you rather be thinking about? And that actually helps. So I just immediately just think of something that I want to be thinking about, that I want to manifest or
Right.
something.
Beautiful.
I like that.
And in this practice, just to help you, if you want to continue, for those of you who have been doing this for 5 years, if you want to, I'm trying to give you things to enhance your practice, to make it fresh, but also to enhance it, to combine the two, right? So this idea of apprehension, if you're still in that space where you connect with loved ones and there's some level of attachment, is to recognize the attachment, feel your feet on the ground, connect with your heart and your core, take a deep breath, overcome the attachment and get back to connection, which doesn't have the filter of attachment. Same thing with indifference. If more of us stop being indifferent to strangers and the plight of strangers, feel your feet on the ground, connect to your core and your heart, take deep breaths to overcome with apprehension that impulse, you get back into a heart resonance with strangers. That's how more people will get engaged with civic engagement or with what's happening in the world in a beneficial way. Same thing with aversion, based on a skin color or gender or political affiliation or religion or the type of clothing that someone might, or to be able to feel the aversion, feel your feet on the ground, connect to your core and your heart, take deep breaths with apprehension, overcome that impulse to get back to heart resonance. And it's not going to work with everyone, but that is the practice. And that's what's going to connect more of us. And to me, there's hope in that for the future, for the near future and for the long-term future. Okay, so we had time to reflect. We did our practice. We just want to share. Thank you for those who've shown up for this series. I think I'm going to do this now like once a month. And we're going to try to do the second Tuesday of every month, but we'll send out a list for from now until like mid-April or something, from now until April, to do this for once a month. Tell people about it, and it'd be great if you can mark that on your calendar so you have it already. So just make a note of that. If you're looking to go deeper into this work, there's 2 workshops I'm doing. One is in the Netherlands in a couple of weeks in December 8th through 10th. And I'm doing a workshop in New York City, the very last weekend of January in New York City. And there'll be other workshops, but tell your friends about that. It would be great for you to join if you want to take this deeper. And I don't ask for any money for this, but there's always a request that if you feel you want some exchange for as a gift for this, you can purchase this book, my new book, or my other book, Mastering Respectful Confrontation. You can order that on Amazon, or if you order it through our website, www.𝗤𝗏_Weston.com, you can actually get a signed copy if you want. All of the links for that are in the chat. If you're not on our website, please do get on our website so you can get updates of when we're doing this and how often we're doing this, www.𝗤𝗏_Weston.com. And let's do a dedication. We always end with a dedication. We've created an enormous amount of beneficial energy, manifesting for ourselves a more connected world. a more heart-centered world. So just take a moment for yourself, and from the deepest gratitude, the generosity in your heart, who needs that energy right now? Could be you, could be your endeavors and your businesses, or what you're working on, your projects. People you know in your life who could use a little bit of energy. As Mika requested, may all the citizens of the Netherlands get off their butts and go and vote for resonant themes that have to do with taking care of the planet, treating each other with respect and dignity, equity. All those who are feeling lost and disempowered, particularly in the Northern Hemisphere as we move into the winter months, colder, darker months. The holiday season, for those who feel alone and isolated, may they find some level of connection and belonging. And may we all practice and cultivate the habit of apprehension for ourselves and for all beings. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Get in touch if you have any questions or if there's anything you want to share. Otherwise, hopefully I'll see you on December 12th or maybe at a workshop. And let's be sure to keep in touch. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.